Hey, welcome back guys, it's Trucker Guy Chad. I'm going to do a full outside inspection. So if you like this video, please hit the like, subscribe, comment. But I'm going to start. I will check all my lights. They are amber to the front and side of my tractor and trailer, and red to the rear of my tractor and trailer. I'm going to pop the hood. Okay, first I'll start off by checking all my hoses. Make sure they are clamped on both ends. They're not split, cut, or leaking any air. I will check my oil here. It needs to be between the add and full line. If I need to fill my oil, I would do it here. I would open this up and fill it there. Now I'm going to check my air compressor. It is securely bolted to the engine. All bolts are tight, none missing. There's no audible leaks. I'll check my air compressor hoses. They are not split, cut, or leaking any air. And it is gear driven. I will check my power steering pump. All bolts are present and tight, none missing. It is mounted securely to the engine. There is no leaks in my power steering pump. I will check my power steering pump hoses. There's no cuts, leaks, not frayed. The clamps are fitted on both ends. I'll check my power steering reservoir. The cap is on securely. It is a two-piece being held together by a clamp which is secure and tight. There's no cracks or damages. It is not broken. There is no leaks. It is being securely mounted to the bracket, which is securely mounted to the frame. And there is no leaks, in case I did not say that. My steering arm, you can wiggle it this way, but you can't wiggle it back and forth. It is not bent or broken. It is held together by two U-bolts, one right there, one right there. There's no metal shavings indicating a looseness or wear in my U-bolts. I'll check my steering gearbox. My steering gearbox is properly mounted. No missing bolts, no leaks. It is not cracked or broken. My hoses to my steering gearbox are fitted on both ends. There's no cuts, leaks, or tears in my hoses. Now I will check my steering linkage. My steering linkage is being held on by 4 castle nuts and cotter pins. One here, and one down there, and then one more on the other side of the tractor. My rods are not bent or broken. They are intact. And my air brakes are fitted on both ends. There's no cuts, tears, or leaks. It's not dry rotted. It is securely mounted to the brake chamber, which is held together by a clamp that is securely tight. All the bolts from my brake chamber is tight, present, not missing. And there's no leaks coming from my brake chamber. My slack adjuster, right behind it, slack adjuster and push rod. My slack adjuster and push rod is not bent, damaged. All bolts are present and tight. The push rod, if pulled with the brakes release, would have no more than 1 inch of travel. The push rod is being held to the slack adjuster with a pin and cotter pin. the spring hangers. One in the front, one in the back. The spring hangers. There is one in the front and one in the back. All bolts are present and tight, none missing. They're not damaged, bent, or cracked, or no illegal welds. The grease bushings for my spring hangers are not torn or coming out. The leaf spring. The leaf spring is not cracked, damaged. It's not separated or scissoring. They are in line. They are being held together by 2 U-bolts, which is securely fastened to the axle. The U-bolts have lug nuts on the bottom that are present and tight, not missing. My U-bolts are not loose. There's no metal shavings on my leaf springs indicating any kind of looseness. My shock absorber. My shock absorber is mounted on the top and the bottom with lug nuts. They are present and tight, not missing. And there's no leaks coming from my shock absorber. Now, my brake drum. My brake drum is not cracked, damaged, no illegal welds. There's no debris. There's no grease or oil on the brake drums. And the brake linings are not worn. There's the brake drum and the brake linings. It's not worn dangerously thin. There's no missing pieces. It's not glazed over with any grease or oil indicating looseness. Now my tire. The sidewalls are not bubbling out. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts in the face of my tire or the side of my tire. There's no leaks in the sidewalls of my tire or the face of my tire. There's no foreign objects like nails or screws in my tire, and I don't hear any audible leaks. The tread needs to be at least 4 32 of an inch, and it must be worn evenly. My rim. My rim is not cracked or damaged. If there is a crack, it would be from lug nut to hole to hole, or lug nut to lug nut. My lug nuts are all present and tight. There's none missing. If I saw any rust trails, that would indicate looseness in my lug nuts. My hub oil seal. My hub oil seal, I would check it through the sight glass here to see if it needed to be filled. If it needed to be filled, I would open this cap and fill it in there. The lug nuts for my hub oil seal are all present and tight, not missing. My hub oil seal is not cracked or broken. There is no leaks in my hub oil seal. My valve stem is straight, not bent. It has a cap securely on it. And if I need to check the air pressure in my tire, I would use a tire gauge. Now let's go to the other side. Sorry for the wind. I would check all my hoses on this side as I did the other side. The hoses need to be not cracked, split, or leaking. They need to be fitted on all ends securely. My coolant needs to be between the add and full, or in this case the full and minimum mark. It is properly mounted to the front of my tractor, is properly bolted to the front of my tractor. There is no leaks. It's not cracked. My coolant hose is clamped on both ends. It's not split, dry rotted, or leaking. My water pump is belt driven. It is properly mounted to the engine. All bolts are present and tight, and it's not leaking. My alternator is being held onto the engine by 4 bolts here, 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 and here. It is not cracked or broken. All the wires to my alternator are present. All the bolts are present and tight. There's a bolt there too. My wires themselves are not split, torn, no exposed wires. It's not arcing. And it is also belt driven. My serpentine belt is not cracked, frayed, dry rotted for my alternator, and no measurable deflection. My serpentine belt for my water pump is not cracked, dry rotted, or cut, and no measurable deflection. And that's it for the hood. Well, I guess I'll find out if it's locked or not. Okay, hood coming down. Latch it up. Now do my tractor. My tractor mirror. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. There's no missing lug nuts. The mirror is clean, not cracked or broken, and is adjusted to the driver. The door latch latches properly, functions properly. The seal around the door is all intact, no missing pieces. There's no cuts, and it's not dry rotted or frayed. The door seal around the cab is intact. It's not dry rotted, frayed, and no cuts in that. The door hinges, no missing bolts. They're all present and tight. The door hinge is not broken. No missing pieces. The door hinge pins are present and tight. No excessive wear, which allows the door to swing freely as such. My steps are clear of debris. They are not cracked, broken. All lug nuts are present and tight in my steps. My fuel tank is not dented, cracked, no eruptions in my fuel tank. The cap is on securely. Cap is on securely, and it has a security chain, and the rubber seal in the cap is not coming out, not ripped, torn, or dry rotted. The tank is being held on by 2 straps. There's no missing bolts. They're all present and tight. The strap is not cracked, dry rotted, or split. There's no shiny metal on the tank indicating looseness in my straps. There is a rubber seal underneath the straps to prevent rubbing against the tank. My fuel lines are not split. My fuel lines are not split, cut, or leaking. They are clamped on all ends. I'm not going to have enough battery for this. My exhaust is not cracked, bent, or broken. They're clamped tight. There's no leaks. There's no black soot, which would indicate a leak in my exhaust. The drive shaft is not bent, damaged, not cracked. It's being held together on both ends with 2 U-joints. The U-joints are not cracked or bent. There's no shiny metals indicating looseness or wear in my U-joints. My torque arm. My torque arm is not bent, not dented, cracked, or broken. There's no missing lug nuts. They're all present and tight. The grease bushings are intact, not torn or coming out. The frame itself, there's no illegal welds. It's not twisted or bent. And the spring hanger. My spring hangers are bolted securely to the frame. No missing bolts. Not cracked, bent. The grease bushings are intact, not coming out, not dry rotted, not torn, etc. The spring itself is not separated, not scissoring. It is not missing any pieces and not cracked. It's being held onto the axle by 2 U-bolts. U-bolts are not loose. The bolts are tight on the U-bolts. There are none missing. And the U-bolts are not loose. There's no shiny metal indicating looseness. My shock absorber is mounted on both ends. There's no leaks in my shock absorber. It's not bent, broken, or leaking. My airbags are bolted top and bottom. My airbags are not leaking, dry rotted, cracked, or punctured. My wheel, my brake drum, there's no major grooves, no missing pieces, no welds, not cracked, no excessive grease or oil indicating looseness. My brake drum and my brake lining right inside there is not worn excessively thin. There is no grease or oil contaminants indicating a leak. And all bolts are present and tight. I have a dual tire system. The dual tire system is butted. There's no gaps in my buds. There's no shiny metal. There's no debris between my tires. My tire and sidewalls, there's no bubbles. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. It's not leaking. The tread is at least 2 32 of an inch. I might not have time for the whole trailer because I'm running out of battery. The rim is not cracked, dented, no illegal welds. If there was a crack, it'd be from hole to hole, hole to lug nut, or lug nut to lug nut. All my lug nuts are present and tight. There's no rust trails indicating the looseness in my lug nuts. My hub oil seal, all bolts are present and tight. There's no leaking coming from my hub oil seal. I can't check this one because there's a cap on it. My valve stem is not bent, it is straight. There's a cap securely on it. If I want to check the air pressure in my tire, I would use a tire gauge. My brake chamber. My brake chamber is not cracked, dented, or broken, is not leaking. There's no, both is a 2-piece, so the clamps are holding them together and they are tight and secure. My brake line is fitted on both ends. It is not split, torn, or cracked or leaking. My mud flaps. My mud flaps are not torn, dragging on the ground. They have proper clearance from the ground. They're not dry rotted or ripped. All the bolts is being bolted on by the bracket, and all the bolts for the bracket is present and tight. The bracket itself's not bent. The lights at the end of my tractor, I have marker lights, left turn signal, right turn signal, brake lights, and forward flashers. I'm gonna skip the coupling system and hopefully I can get through the trailer. My header board or headache rack it's not separated. There's no separation in my seams. All the rivets are present. There's no bulges, holes, not damaged. And the same all the way down The side of my tractor is not, there's no bulges, not separated in the seams. All the rivets are present and tight. My DOT tape is properly affixed, not ripped, torn, coming off. Definitely not ripped or torn or coming off. My landing gear, the feet are raised fully. All bolts are present and tight. There's no dents or cracks in my landing gear. The welds are not cracked. And the handle is properly stored in the cradle. My cross members, all the bolts for my cross members all the way down the trailer are present and tight, not missing. My cross members themselves, is all the welds are intact. It's not bent, it's not broken. All the bolts to the flooring are intact. And that's what holds up the floor, is the bolts, and they are in fact not missing. Now we'll check that all the way down the trailer. I forgot, I have a marker light up there, or a clearance light up there. It's a left turn signal, forward flasher, also a marker light. My marker light there is also a left turn signal, forward flasher. My light here is also a marker light, left turn signal, forward flasher. I'm gonna get under here, check my lines. They are being held up by 2 springs. The lines are securely clamped on all ends. There's no splits, tears, dry rotting in my lines. It's hanging above the axle. There's no leaks coming from my air lines. No arcing coming from my electrical lines. There's no exposed wires, not burnt or frayed. My tandem frame. My tandem frame is not twisted or bent. Welds are not cracked. It has 2 pins on this side, 2 tandem pins on this side, and 2 tandem pins on the other side. And the release handle, which is in the middle, is in the lock position. Now, my air brakes. My air brakes are my brake lines are fitted on both ends, not cracked, leaking, not dry rotted. My brake chambers, here and here, here and here. There's no leaks, damage, cracks. It is being held together. It's 2-piece being held together by clamps. The clamps are tight, not missing. No bolts missing. And my brake chambers, they're also present and tight. My shock absorber, bolted on top and bottom. It's not bent, leaking, or cracked. My airbags, bolted top and bottom. My airbag's not punctured, dry rotted, or leaking. Any air is not cut in any way. My trailing arms is not bent, broken, or cracked. No missing bolts. All bolts are present and tight. My torque arms. All bolts are present and tight, not missing. Torque arms are not bent or cracked. I believe that's everything under here. I'm pretty sure. Oh God, my knees. My tires, another dual tire system again. No debris between the tires, the buds, no gap between the buds, no shiny metal. My tire tread is at least 2/32 of an inch. No no bubbles, abrasions, or cuts. Not leaking any air. My brake drums. My brake drums, no major grooves, not missing any pieces, no welds, no foreign objects, no excessive grease or oil. All bolts are present and tight. The brake lining is not worn dangerously thin. No grease or oil indicating a leak. My rim, again, is not bent, broken, or cracked. If it was cracked, it'd be from hole to lug nut to lug nut, or hole to hole. All the lug nuts are present and tight. There's no rust trails indicating looseness in my lug nuts. Hub oil seal, if I need to fill it, I would look at the sight glass here and open up. I would use the sight glass to check the oil, and if I need to fill it, I would open this up. All bolts of my hub seal are present and tight. The hub oil seal is not broken, cracked, or leaking. The valve stem is straight, not bent. There's a cap securely in place. If I want to check the air pressure, I would use a tire gauge. The mud flaps over here are not torn, dragging on the ground. It's not ripped, frayed, dry rotted. All bolts are present and tight, except for this one. I would report that to maintenance. The bracket itself is not bent or damaged. It might be a little bent, but I have an ABS light here and a marker light here. My door hinges. There's no welds. It's not broken or cracked. The door hinge pins are in place, not excessively worn. All bolts are present and tight, not missing. I have DOT tape all the way across the door, and the bumper is properly affixed. It is not ripped, torn. My door latches, this one and this one, latch top and bottom. No missing bolts. The door latches are not bent, broken, or cracked. The door handles properly in its cradle with the safety latch over them. The door handles are not bent, broken, or cracked. No missing bolts or lug nuts, are all present and tight.